Wasabi guys, welcome back to another Top 10 Commander video. This time I would like to talk about my picks for the 10 best cards from Innistrad Crimson Vow. As always, I would like to remind you that if you enjoy the videos, please do subscribe, it helps out the channel. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now if it didn't make you guys happy. So number 10 here we have Avabruk, Caretaker that flips into Hollowhenge, Huntmaster. Werewolves got a ton of support. They got the support that they needed in Midnight Hunt, and they're getting just a little bit more in Crimson Vow. I would even make the argument that in this set, werewolves got even more support than vampires did. A lot of the vampire support is more centered around blood tokens, and it's not quite overpowering. I think that was a concern Wizards of the Coast had when approaching the vampire tribe in this set, is that going back to 2017 and since then, vampires are good. They don't need to be much better, but werewolves need it to be. And with Avabruk Caretaker, you also have hexproof and more power and +1/+1 counters, which means that not only are you going to have a ton of werewolves that maybe aren't super strong on their own, but you're going to have a ton of good werewolves that have +1/+1 counters on them and potentially hexproof. Number 9, we have Kayageist Hunter. Kaya is kind of an interesting planeswalker. You do have more of an emphasis on spirit tokens, and that's why I like her as the best planeswalker in the set. When we're looking for good planeswalkers in Commander, it's not always, well, what are the ones with the best pluses? It's more often, how do we realistically get to those alts? And in Commander, I don't know if you go with the planeswalker unless it has a decent payoff with the alt. But another reason why Kaya is so strong is that her minus is in a way a one-turn anointed procession. So if you have a way of constantly getting more spirit tokens and you're playing something like Teysa, the potential to go off in a single turn shouldn't be underestimated. But also being around 3 mana, I know Sorin and Chandra are also around that 3 mana, but I just like the payoff you get here with Kaya a little bit better than those planeswalkers. And then number 8, we have Howlpack Piper that flips into Wildsong Howler, another really good werewolf. A lot of people are looking at Avabruk Caretaker because it's yet another great mythic. This set has a lot of good mythics, and they're going to be really where the value comes from, money-wise. But Howlpack Piper is strong. Can't be countered. Once you activate that ability, you're going to be cheating it to play wolves and werewolves, so you're going to be able to untap her and then use that ability all over again. It's only 2 mana too, so it's super affordable. You're in the colors for ramp, you should be able to do this several times. As long as you have a way of consistently drawing into your werewolves, this shouldn't be a problem. And this is one of the few werewolves where the flip side is arguably worse, but it's still good. I mean, you're still going to get to your werewolves that you need, so that once you do flip back into Howlpack Piper, you can just cheat them into play. Number 7 here is Olivia Crimson Bride. My overall feelings about Olivia as a commander, she's sort of middle of the road for me. I don't think she's going to be a very strong commander option just because most people aren't going to think she's an interesting commander option. That being said, she is going to be an auto-include for a lot of vampire decks. She's not really held back by needing to synergize with blood tokens, which is a huge positive if you're looking to throw her into other decks. So you can go for pretty much whatever vampire strategy you want to go with. She's flying in haste, which means that you can get that ability off pretty quickly and get that value in reanimating from the graveyard. And then we have number 6, Umbra Sphere Manifest. This is something I think Wizards of the Coast knew they needed to do. They needed to introduce either a brand new creature type or offer creature tribal support that did not previously exist. And we have that here in a pretty crazy mill commander that synergizes with both nightmares and horrors. So we got a lot of those nightmares from Ikoria, if you remember. Umbris is going to take advantage of them. What I like about Umbris is that it's mill, but it's also tribal. So the deck you're going to be building is pretty much brand new. You might have some shell from previous mill decks, but the creativity is going to be here with this commander, and I think that's why certain commanders are better. It's not necessarily because they're strong, but people choose them because they're creative. They offer something that other commanders don't. And then we have number 5, Hullbreaker Horror. This is a funny card. I don't know how practical it's going to be. I know a lot of people panicked when they saw this. They're like, why would Wizards do this to us? This massive 7 mana, uncounterable flash kraken. Why would they do this? By the way, you can throw it into Umbris and get the exile. Whenever you cast a spell, you get to do one of 2 modes. Return a spell an opponent controls back to their hand, or you return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So both of those are pretty good. If you have any way of constantly replaying the same spell, you have a reliable counter spell. Doesn't technically counter a spell, so you get around things that can't be countered. So if you hate Adventure, you have something that's just as abusable. And if you're looking to really put your foot on the pedal, you can just start bouncing your opponent's non-land permanents. Just pick them off one by one. Flash makes this card a lot better. It's not going to sit out there a full turn cycle before you get any spells to cast. That's wonderful. And then number 4, we have Maniform Kite. I still think this card is crazy. It has a ton of win potential, and that's what I like in cards. I like fun cards that have the potential to win or at least make the game exciting. If there's anything holding it back, it's that it would be just considered as a win more card in a lot of these Spellslinger strategies, but win more isn't always a bad thing. This is a singleton format, so consistency is often going to be what people seek out the most. And this goes back to what I said before. A lot of the value in this set is going to come from the mythics. We have some good rares like Hullbreaker Horror, but a lot of what people are going to be looking for is going to be mythic rare. And then number 3, we have Necro Duality, an enchantment starting out with Necro. You knew it had to be good. This is a zombie doubler for your non-token zombies when they enter the battlefield. There are a lot of cards like this in red. As I'm sure you know, you have a creature enter the battlefield, you can make a token copy of it, but the token copy usually goes away. You have a lot of red cards that can make token copies, but the blue cards that make token copies are stronger because you get to keep them. And while this is very specific to the creature that you're able to get a copy of, it's arguably one of the most popular tribes ever. There's a ton of zombie support. Something like this, it's just the rich getting richer. There are a lot of zombie lords that if you get 2 of them, suddenly all of your creatures have +2/+2. It's just the simplest things that a zombie strategy is capable of are going to be amplified suddenly with this card. We knew that zombies were going to be getting support this time around in Innistrad, but they got a lot more powerful. I mean, in Crimson Vow, I don't even think I saw Decayed as a keyword. It's almost like they took a step back in Midnight Hunt and said, let's take away the power from zombies, only to this time around in Crimson Vow, just crank it up to 11 again. It's crazy. And number 2, we have Cultivator Colossus. This is one of the riskiest cards that you can play, but also one with the most payoff. Because if you do have the lands, if you can consistently draw into lands, your turn's just going to keep going. In landfall decks, this is going to be a catalyst. I think in any deck, if you can get anywhere from like 3 to 5 lands at least off of this, it's worth it, because that means you're also getting to draw off of this as well. Worst case scenario, you don't get a ton of value off of it, you still have a massive creature with trample, so it checks a lot of boxes here. The risk isn't even so much as, is this card going to be dead? A lot of cards are like that. The worst case scenario with Cultivator Colossus is that you don't just go off and win that turn. It is pretty expensive, but you're in the color that you would want expensive cards in, so not really a ton to complain about. And then number 1, what I think is the best card from Crimson Vow is Hallowed Haunting. This might have been one of the first cards I talked about, one of the first spoilers, and it's still crazy. You get those spirit tokens that have power and toughness equal to the total number of spirits you have, and that army just keeps growing if you keep playing enchantments. Not only is this going to be a dominant force in Standard, but this is also going to be a threat in Commander. Enchantress strategies are strong, and there are a variety of decks that can play enchantments. And there's also a lot of additional support for both spirits and enchantments in this set specifically. So it adds to what was already great. Not only that, but it offers you guaranteed power. Because if you're going to play the type of deck that's going to want this, all you're doing is just playing enchantments anyway. And it's not like you're just getting 1/1s, it's not like some slow bitter blossom value. You're getting these spirits each time you cast one, and they're getting bigger for each spirit you have. So imagine something like Pack Rat, and it only really needs to happen each time you cast a certain spell. That's what I'm talking about here with Hallowed Haunting. There's a ton of potential for this. You're just going to keep building up a board presence that will eventually overpower all of your opponents. So anyway, those are the 10 best cards from Innistrad Crimson Vow. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comments section below. Commander Void here, I will see you all next time.